Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip on NFL Live from ESPN talking about Russell Wilson and how he's being cut. They're going to just completely cut him and let him go. And it's just pretty crazy considering that this was such a massive acquisition from the Broncos, massive money involved, guaranteed income. He was supposed to bring Denver back to greatness. That obviously did not happen. And they're not trying to do anything else. They're just taking the dead money hit, which is, I think it's going to be the largest dead money hit by like a mile for any team in the history of the NFL. So it's pretty crazy. And now apparently no one's really jumping for Russell Wilson. And the real question is, why? I have some really strong thoughts about this one. I want to see what they have to say first, and then we can break it down from there.
The direction that Russell Wilson's going, what do you think it looks like for him as you look across the NFL? There are some quarterback needy teams.
It's a long road, patience, time. No one's going to jump at Russell right now. And I understand Shefty's point of the contract. The real question is Russell Wilson almost comfortable being a fringe competing starter or backup? Because he's going to be very cheap, but we have to be honest about the situations that are going to be available to him. Now, it's funny because Baker Mayfield's going to get a ton of money, and he earned that. Their numbers are relatively similar off of last season, and Baker obviously had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, much better talent to throw on a consistent basis. But if you look at the teams, New England drafting number 3, probably going to take a quarterback or at some point. Pittsburgh doesn't seem like they're going to jump. Tennessee, moving forward, Will Levis. The Giants, maybe, but then that's again a competing starting quarterback position. Maybe Washington, but I would imagine they draft somebody at 2. So there's just not a lot of seats going to be.
So that's what it comes down to. This was just terrible timing for Russell Wilson because I was going to use Baker Mayfield, and it's funny that he brought that up because if you get him on a super cheap deal, like if Baker Mayfield's still playing, I'd rather have Russell Wilson over Baker Mayfield any day of the week. That's me personally. Granted, you have the age benefit of Baker Mayfield, that he has a longer runway, but I do appreciate Russell Wilson's professionalism more, even though people clearly don't love him in the locker room necessarily. But based off of what I see, and again, this is hard because really you only know if you really are interacting with him behind closed doors, right? And so maybe everything I'm saying is actually just not accurate at all, and only the people who really truly know Russell Wilson know that's not true. That's just the perception, which is very possible. And there's reason to believe that that is the reality. But just looking at it from an outside perspective, if you said, hey, we need to pick between one of these 2 quarterbacks, who are you going to pick? I would pick Russell Wilson. I really would. And so if you're going to have Baker Mayfield still in there, it's just like, it is fascinating that he, that Russell Wilson is not going to be getting a job here. And it's like, he is worthy to be one of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Is he a top 5? No. But does he deserve to just be a backup and nothing? Not necessarily either. And the problem is that it's not always about what you can do today. For instance, if you draft a quarterback or you get some backup quarterback or some quarterback who's been in the league who's clearly not that good, or just not amazing, can't think of any names right now, like the Steelers quarterbacks, it's all about how much are you going to make down the line. Is it better to develop a quarterback and go with the issues, right? You draft a rookie quarterback who you know is maybe not going to be that good, or you get a Russell Wilson, right? The only way a Russell Wilson, to me, succeeds is if he gets thrown onto a team like the 49ers, right? Like, let's say Brock Purdy got injured again, right? At the end of last season in the Super Bowl, right? He hurt himself. I would absolutely grab a Russell Wilson because you know with full confidence that Russell Wilson can run an offense. You can say that with confidence. He's not a spaz. He's not making these complete boneheaded mistakes. Of course, he makes mistakes like every quarterback in the history of the world, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. But you have to imagine that he could absolutely thrive with Shanahan and with Debo and McCaffrey and all these other guys, unless he really does suck from a locker room perspective. And unless he really is that much of a diva that he just sucks a locker room down, which is just hard from a fan perspective, an outside perspective, for any of us to notice that. It's just too hard. We just don't know. But we do have some hints about it, but it's hard to perceive because it's such the opposite perception that he puts off. It's the opposite brand that he has. But there clearly is some truth to that. But you have to imagine that you put him on that team, he's going to be pretty darn good. I have to imagine if he played for the Cowboys or the Eagles or the Bills, the Dolphins, any of these teams, that they would make the playoffs, that they would be a playoff team. What is shown right now is that you can't let Russ cook. That if you say, come on, Russ, go out there and win us this game, not necessarily win us this game, because of course he can win us a game, but, do it consistently, lead us to victory, lead us to the Super Bowl, to the playoffs, whatever. Those days were either never actually there for him, or if they were, they're long gone. And so that's why if you have a great roster and a great coach and a composed coach, I'm actually not a huge fan of Sean Payton. I'm not against him. I think he's a great coach, but I'm not a massive fan of Sean Payton. I think some of his stock is hyper inflated. If Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks ever, Hall of Famer, top 10, 15 quarterback of all time, wherever you want to rank them, well, then you have to say that they did pretty bad. And sure, if you want to just blame just some unfortunate luck, other adversity that they faced, bad timing, going up against just better teams at that time, sure, that can happen, right? There were plenty of other amazing teams that could have won the NBA Finals any other year, but it just so happened that they ran into Michael Jordan, right? That just is what it is. It's not to say that people like Stockton and Malone aren't good. So that's definitely a possibility. You'd have to really go back in time and really dive in and really look and see how all of those games unfolded. But it's just, he gets a lot of immense credit as being a top OG, coach. One of the best coaches in the league, which is technically true, because there's just a lot of not so great coaches, and he has proven to do well even with questionable quarterbacks, people who are maybe not even necessarily quarterbacks at all. But it is telling to me that he was so unsuccessful with Russell Wilson, and he said, get this guy out of here. And it's fascinating to see what the Broncos are going to do then. If they are going to draft, are they going to trade up to get a pick? Are they going to try to make a play for like a Dak Prescott or something? Who honestly really knows? I have personally no idea. And if you heard of anything or have any ideas, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know, what do you think the Broncos are going to do? But in terms of Russell Wilson, I just don't know what team. It's like, let's say it comes out that Watson is just done. He just never recovers. He's done, or he just says, I'm retiring. I hate this. This was a mistake. I'm never playing football again. It's like, do the Browns go out and run and get Russell Wilson? I don't think so. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, his recovery is just going too slow, and they're like, man, he's going to be gone for the next 6 games starting next season. Do they go out and get Russell Wilson? No. The Falcons, right? If you're a new, young, upcoming team, why would you go and get Russell Wilson? Why spend that money? Why keep yourself in this weird purgatory? You're not going to do that if you're like the Falcons. The Panthers, we're realizing that we're not sure what's up with our number 1 pick. Is he good? Is he not good? I don't know. You're not going to go and get Russell Wilson. So what team wants Russell Wilson right now? You want him as a backup quarterback, right? If you're the Eagles, for instance, and Jalen Hurts keeps getting banged up, dude, if Russell Wilson's okay being a backup quarterback, I take him. Absolutely. Go get him. Go do it. You always want a good backup quarterback, and Russell Wilson would be, without a doubt, the best backup quarterback in the entire NFL. No ifs, ands, or buts. But in terms of what are you doing with a starter? I just don't know what team wants him. And any of the teams that you could say theoretically would be better with him, they're all teams that are looking to grow, and they're not thinking about this year, this season, or even maybe next season necessarily. They're all we're looking at the draft. That's why they brought up the Commanders. It's we're going to draft someone. We're better off trying to develop another quarterback, and take that chance. And especially because if that quarterback ends up being a scrub, well, then we're going to be picking at the top again, and hopefully then the next season, I don't know what the next QB class looks like necessarily, but then we'll take a look at that class. But spending money on Russell Wilson, even though it looks like it'll be like for nothing, you got to weigh the cost benefit. And again, really the only situation could be is if this was last year again, where Brock Purdy hurt himself, and you're just like, okay, well, is Brock Purdy going to be back? I don't know. We have a great roster. We need someone to be able to, hold it down. Do you want to go with Sam Darnold or Russell Wilson? And I don't know what you do in that situation, honestly, because Russell Wilson, if you're talking about Russell Wilson from 10 years ago, you want Russell Wilson, but not. So it just is so interesting to me. And it's also never a good look when a quarterback forces their way off a team, any player for that matter, forces himself out of a situation, off of a team like Russell Wilson did, and then immediately fail. Because a lot of times we use players or just coaches, anyone, everyone looks for a scapegoat within the organization. And once you're tagged as a scapegoat, whether it be because of your level of play, whether it be because of your personality, your leadership role, whatever it may be, it's incredibly hard to shake. Carson Wentz is a good enough quarterback. Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is playing. Carson Wentz is not. Because once you get tagged, it's really, really, really hard to come back. And it's honestly, it's a miracle that Baker Mayfield was able to straggle along. And he got so lucky because he was failing. And the Rams, Sean McVay said, we need something. We'll take Baker, whatever. And then he had really that just great game, really great drive. And that was enough for them people to be like, well, okay, we can maybe make something like this happen. And the truth is that Russell Wilson didn't necessarily have that moment. It's not to say that all his moments were bad last season or the last 2 seasons in general, but it's just not enough. And when the coach is saying, like someone of Sean Payton's stature says, you are not good enough. Not only are we letting you go, but we are going to eat all this money. That is saying we do not want you and no team should want you. That's really what that's saying. And so that's an unfortunate place for Russell Wilson to be. But I truly don't know where Russell Wilson can go, how he can succeed. Can he bounce back? Talks about like, should the Patriots want him or, and it's just like, I just don't know for what. Again, if I have a team and I really need a quarterback and my team's like, kind of good, they're real young, they're growing, I don't know if I necessarily want Russell Wilson. I'm like, no, come on, go draft someone. I'm more curious to see what the future can hold rather than, what can Russell Wilson do? Because I'm just not seeing it. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really, really does help with the visibility in the algorithm, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.